The lights flickered gently in the long hallway of the interspecies research ship Unity. The hum of machines and soft echoes of alien voices filled the air, but one section of the ship remained quiet. Cargo Bay C7. It was Kyle's favorite place. Not because it was clean or fancy, but because it was peaceful. Kyle was a young human technician, sent from Earth to help maintain the ship's power systems. He didn't talk much with the other crew members, especially not with the aliens. Most of them stayed in their own zones. They were polite, but distant. That was fine by Kyle. He liked to work with his hands more than words. Today, he was checking crate numbers when he noticed a box slightly out of place. It was labeled in an alien script he didn't understand. Curious, he gently opened it, thinking it might be equipment, but to his surprise, there was someone inside. A girl. Not human. She had soft, pale blue skin with purplish tones under the light. Her ears were small and pointed, almost like those in Earth fairy tales. Her eyes, large and bright, blinked in shock. She was crouched inside, holding a small device close to her chest. For a moment, neither of them said anything. I didn't mean to. Kyle took a step back. The girl quickly stepped out of the box, looking embarrassed. She spoke quietly, her voice smooth but a little unsure. This area was empty. I just needed quiet. Please don't report me. Kyle shook his head. No, it's okay. I don't care. I was just checking crates. She nodded slowly, still standing like she was ready to run. Kyle didn't know what to say. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small food bar. Want one? It's sweet, he offered. The alien girl looked at it with confusion, but then accepted it carefully. She sniffed it, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened immediately. I've never tasted this before, she whispered. It sparkles in the mouth. Kyle laughed softly. Yeah, it's a sugar bar. Humans like sweet stuff. She took another bite, slower this time, clearly enjoying it. What's your name? Kyle asked gently. Vexa, she said after a pause. I'm part of the observation team. Nice to meet you, Vexa. I'm Kyle. I fix things no one
else wants to touch. Vexa gave a small smile. It was the first time Kyle saw her expression soften. They stood there for a few quiet seconds, neither sure how to continue.
Then Kyle looked at her again and without thinking said, You're so sweet. He meant it in a friendly way, but the moment the words left his mouth, Vexa froze. Her eyes locked onto his. She stopped chewing. Her cheeks, a light blue before, seemed to shift to a soft violet. She looked away quickly and didn't speak again. Kyle blinked. I didn't mean that in a weird way, just, your reaction to the candy, that's all. Vexa gave a small bow of her head, turned, and walked away without another word. Kyle was left standing alone in the cargo bay, confused. Did he say something wrong? Later that night, Kyle sat in his small bunk thinking about the moment again. Vexa had completely gone silent after he said she was sweet. But why? It wasn't like he meant anything deep by it. Humans use that word all the time for candy, pets, even children. Did her species not use such words? He opened his tablet and tried searching the ship database about Vexa's species, the Tyrillians. They were known for being peaceful, emotionally calm, and very respectful. They didn't often form close friendships outside their own kind. There was one part that caught Kyle's eye. Tyrillians consider certain emotional words sacred. Compliments, especially those given without ritual or preparation, can carry deep meaning. Oh no, Kyle muttered. He rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling. All he had done was call her sweet. That's it. But to her, maybe it sounded like a deep confession. Maybe he'd embarrassed her, or worse, broken some cultural rule. He sighed. Way to go, Kyle. He decided he would find her the next day and try to explain. But the next day came and Vexa was nowhere in sight. He didn't see her in the halls or at mealtime. She wasn't in any of the common rooms either. Kyle began to worry. Not just because he might have upset her, but because, honestly, he wanted to talk to her again. She seemed kind, quiet, like him. And the way her eyes lit up when she tasted the candy, it was kind of adorable. He spent most of the day distracted. During a systems repair job, he even dropped his tools twice and got scolded by a senior officer. By evening, he still hadn't seen her. As he walked back to the cargo bay, hoping she might be there again, he found the crate empty. No sign of her, just silence. But as he turned to leave, he noticed something tucked between two boxes. It was a small wrapper, the same kind from the candy bar he gave her. Next to it, written in neat, careful alien script, was a short message. "I was not ready for that word. I will speak soon." Kyle smiled softly and held the note close. He whispered to himself, "Okay, Vexa, I'll wait." The next few days passed slowly for Kyle. Every time he walked through the ship's halls, his eyes searched for one face, Vexa. But she was never there. He checked the labs, the observation deck, and even the quiet corners where no one usually went. She had vanished like mist in space. Still, the note she had left in the cargo bay stayed in his pocket. "I was not ready for that word. I will speak soon." He read it over and over again, trying to understand what she truly meant. Was she afraid, angry, or just shy? It made him curious, not only about her, but also about how different her world must be. But what Kyle didn't know was that Vexa had seen him many times during those days. She was just very good at not being seen. Tyrillians, her kind, were skilled observers. They were trained from a young age to watch, learn, and blend in. Vexa used this skill now, not for science, but for something she couldn't explain. She watched. Kyle walked with his head down as he moved from one job to another. She saw how he helped a younger cadet fix a damaged food dispenser without asking for credit, and she saw him return to the cargo bay each evening, looking around slowly, like hoping she might be there again. From the shadows of a high walkway, Vexa's heart began to feel something unfamiliar. She had studied humans before. She had read about their behavior, but no textbook had ever described how it felt to be seen, truly seen by someone. The memory of Kyle's words still echoed in her mind. "You're so sweet." In her culture, saying someone was sweet was more than a compliment. It was personal, emotional, and rarely spoken outside family or serious bonding. That was why she had gone silent. Her brain locked up. Her chest had fluttered like it never had before. And yet, he hadn't said it with expectation. He hadn't chased her afterward. He didn't laugh or tease. He simply waited. And even now he still was. That made her want to step forward, but fear held her back. Kyle, on the other hand, had made up his mind. Whether or not she wanted to talk again, he would still be kind. He didn't want to push or make her uncomfortable, but he also didn't want to pretend that moment hadn't happened. One afternoon, while delivering a power cell near the xenobiology lab, Kyle noticed a group of alien scientists gathered around a small container. Inside was a flower-like alien organism that gave off faint music when touched. One of the scientists spoke in Tyrillian, and Kyle caught a glimpse of familiar blue skin behind the glass wall. It was Vexa. His heart skipped. She was there. But when their eyes met, she looked away. Kyle took a breath and gave a small wave before walking away without a word. Vexa stared after him. The fact that he didn't try to approach her, that he respected her space, meant more to her than he could ever know. Later that night, Vexa returned to the cargo bay quietly. She found the crate again, and like before, there was something waiting for her. It wasn't candy this time. It was a small device, a music player with one human headphone attached. Kyle had written a note next to it. "This is my favorite song. I listen to it when I feel like the world is too big. Maybe you'll like it too." Kyle. Vexa sat in the shadows, placed the device gently into her ear and listened. The music was soft, slow, full of something deep and warm. It didn't have words, but the emotions were clear: hope, peace, and kindness. It made her eyes close. It made her shoulders relax. It reminded her of the way Kyle had smiled that day. Simple, real, and without judgment. The next day, Vexa left. Something in return, a small crystal, hand-shaped from her homeworld which glowed faintly when held. Alongside it, she wrote, "This stone calms the mind. I offer it as thanks for the song and for your patience." When Kyle found the gift, he grinned, not because it glowed, not because it was rare, but because she had written back. It was the first time since her silence that she had opened the door again. From that day forward, something unspoken passed between them. Vexa didn't avoid him anymore, but she didn't approach either. She walked down different halls, but slower when she knew Kyle was nearby. She stood a bit longer in the same room if she sensed him working. Kyle understood. He didn't rush her. He didn't speak too much. But every so often, he left small things for her. Another piece of candy, a human poem, or a silly doodle. Vexa returned the favor. She left a sketch of the cargo bay with both of them drawn in it. She gave him a datapad translation of her language's softest phrases. And finally, she left a note that said, "I think I understand now. Sweet is not always about taste. Sometimes, it's about someone's heart." Kyle read that note over and over again. For the first time in years, he didn't feel so alone in space. The ship moved quietly through the stars, floating between distant planets. Inside, life on the Unity continued as usual. Scientists worked, officers gave reports, and machines hummed without pause. But something had changed. Kyle and Vexa had not spoken face-to-face again yet, but their silent exchange through small gifts and written notes continued. Each item shared between them held meaning, a message without needing sound. Kyle had always felt like just a background worker, one of many humans doing repairs, fixing systems, and staying out of the way. But now, he felt noticed. Vexa's careful responses and thoughtful notes made him feel like he mattered, not just as a worker, but as a person. And Vexa? She felt something unfamiliar and strange inside her chest, an emotion her people didn't talk about often. She had learned about human kindness in training, but she had never felt it for herself. And now, every time she saw Kyle from across a hallway or read his next small message, she felt something warm rise in her, something gentle and new. One evening, the lights across the lower decks flickered twice and went dim. "Emergency system, reset in progress," the ship's voice announced. Kyle was immediately called to assist. A wiring fault in the environmental chamber had caused several labs to lose power. It wasn't dangerous, but it had to be fixed fast. Kyle moved through the narrow maintenance halls with a toolkit on his back. When he entered the dark lab near the hydroponics garden, he was surprised to see someone already there. Vexa. She stood quietly near the backup panel, her eyes glowing slightly in the dim light. She turned when she saw him and stepped back. "I thought maybe I could help," she said softly. Kyle blinked. "You want to help?" She nodded once. "I've been watching how you fix things. I read the technical files." He smiled. "Then, let's fix it together." Working side by side, the silence between them wasn't heavy like before. It was peaceful. Kyle explained what each tool did in simple words. Vexa listened carefully, sometimes asking short questions. She was quick to understand. They worked like that for nearly 20 minutes. When the final connection was fixed, the lights above flickered back to full brightness. "Well done," Kyle said, giving a light nod. Vexa looked down at her hands. "This is the first time I've worked with someone like this, not just watched." He replied kindly, "Then I'm lucky to be your first partner." Vexa's eyes lifted toward his. For a few moments, they just looked at each other. The hum of the ship and distant footsteps were the only sounds around them. Then Vexa spoke again. "The word you used before, sweet, do you still mean it?" Kyle's heart skipped. He didn't expect that question. "Yes," he said honestly. "I didn't plan it, but I meant it. You were kind, gentle, and I guess I just said what I felt. Vexa didn't look away this time. She blinked slowly, her voice quiet but clear. Then I will try to understand more. About humans, about you. From that moment, something opened between them. They didn't need big words or loud talks. They met during quiet hours. Sometimes they shared tools and solved small repair tasks. Other times they just sat in silence, listening to music from both Earth and Tyrillian culture. Kyle introduced her to funny human videos, like cats knocking over cups and old cartoons. Vexa introduced him to holograms of Tyrillian sky dances, where lights moved in rhythm with wind and breath. Every small thing they shared brought them closer. One day, Vexa gave Kyle a small wrapped object. Inside was a soft cloth with embroidered shapes, a star beside a small spiral. She explained, "This is a symbol of calm and curiosity. We give it only to those we trust." Kyle felt his throat tighten. "Thank you," he said. "No one's ever given me something like this before." "You gave me more," she replied. "You gave me understanding." But not everyone on the Unity was happy with their growing closeness. Some crew members whispered when they walked past. A few aliens from Vexa's side gave disapproving looks. One Tyrillian male even warned her that forming a deep connection with a human could cause trouble. "They are different," he told her. "Their hearts move too fast. They say strong words without meaning them." But Vexa knew Kyle was not like that. He had waited. He had been kind. He never rushed or demanded. He just stayed and let her choose when to speak. To her, that meant everything. One late evening, as they both watched the stars from a quiet viewing deck, Kyle asked a question. "You think your people and mine will ever truly understand each other?" Vexa looked out the window. "Not all, but some, like us, will try. And maybe that's enough to begin." He nodded slowly. "I think so too." There was a pause. Then he added, "You know, I still have candy if you ever want more." Vexa laughed softly. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. "I think I like the sweet things you say even more." The Unity was a large ship, home to many different species. Most days its halls buzzed with busy voices and work. But now, a quiet tension had begun to spread. Kyle and Vexa's growing friendship had not gone unnoticed. At first, the crew had thought nothing of it. It was natural for people to make friends on a long journey. But soon, whispers started. Some humans talked among themselves. "Why does Kyle spend so much time with that alien girl? Doesn't he have better things to do?" Others looked at Vexa differently. "She's letting a human get close? That's not how we do things." Even among Vexa's own people, some disapproved. "Tyrillians don't bond with outsiders easily. She's breaking tradition." The voices were soft but everywhere. One day, during a group meeting in the ship's cafeteria, Kyle overheard a human crew member speak quietly but sharply. "She's different, sure, but she's still an alien. We don't know what she really wants." Kyle felt a sudden heat rise in his chest. He stood up and said calmly, "Vexa is my friend. She's kind, honest, and brave, and I trust her." The room grew silent. No one said anything more, but Kyle could see some crew members glancing his way with mixed feelings, some curious, others unsure. Meanwhile, Vexa faced her own challenges. Her fellow Tyrillians warned her not to get too close to humans. One elder said, "Your heart is not ready for such a bond. It will bring pain." But Vexa thought differently. She remembered how Kyle had never judged her, how he had waited patiently, how he had shared pieces of his world without forcing hers to change. That meant more than any warning. Still, the doubt lingered in her mind. Could two beings from such different worlds truly understand each other? One evening, after a long day, Vexa found Kyle in the ship's quiet garden, a small place with real plants and soft light. He was sitting alone on a bench looking at a blooming flower. Vexa approached slowly. Kyle smiled and offered her a seat. "Hey, want to sit?" She nodded and sat beside him. They sat in silence for a while, watching the soft green leaves sway. Then Kyle spoke softly. "I know some people don't understand us, but I believe we do." And that's enough. Vexa looked at him. Your patience is rare. It teaches me. Kyle laughed gently. I'm just trying to be a good human. Vexa smiled for the first time in days. You are more than that. But the challenges were not over. A few days later, a senior officer called Kyle to the command center. The officer's voice was firm but fair. Kyle, some concerns have been raised about your close interactions with Vexa. Kyle stood tall. I don't see a problem. We work well together and learn from each other. The officer shook his head. There are cultural risks. We must respect that, Kyle answered. I respect that too. But I also respect Vexa's choice. The officer sighed. Just be careful. Kyle nodded, but inside he felt a fire grow stronger. He would protect his friendship no matter what. On the other side, Vexa received a private message from her people. It was a reminder of their customs, how aliens and humans should remain distant to avoid confusion and conflict. Vexa considered ignoring it. But then she thought of Kyle's kindness. She thought of the small moments they shared, laughs, songs, and quiet talks. Her heart told her to be brave. She replied simply, I will follow my own path. As days passed, Kyle and Vexa faced the judgment together. They didn't need to speak much. Their actions showed their trust. When Kyle helped Vexa repair a broken sensor, he did so with care. When Vexa translated a complex Tyrillian phrase for Kyle, she smiled softly. They grew stronger because they believed in each other, not in what others said. One night during a ship-wide celebration for peace and friendship, Kyle and Vexa stood side by side. The captain raised a glass and said, This ship sails because of unity, between species, cultures, and hearts. Kyle looked at Vexa and whispered, We belong here. Vexa nodded. Together. The crew around them clapped, and slowly, some faces softened. Whispers turned into smiles. The ship moved forward, and so did their bond. Challenges remained, but Kyle and Vexa knew one thing for sure. Kindness could cross any star. Patience could bridge any distance. And sometimes, all it took was one honest word to start a new story. The Unity glided through the silent stars, heading toward its next mission. On board, the mood was brighter than before. Kyle and Vexa's quiet friendship had become a symbol, one of hope and understanding between two very different worlds. That evening, the ship's crew gathered in the main hall for a special event. It was a celebration of cooperation between humans and Tyrillians. Leaders, officers, and scientists from many species came to share stories and build trust. Kyle sat near the front, glancing nervously at the stage. He had been asked to speak, but his heart beat faster than ever. Public speaking was not his strength. Vexa sat beside him, her usually calm face showing a hint of nervousness too. She wore a simple dress embroidered with her home symbols, an honor she did not take lightly. The captain stepped forward and welcomed everyone. Tonight, we celebrate the friendships that make our journey possible, the captain said. Among them is a story of two crew members who remind us that kindness can cross any star. Kyle looked at Vexa. She smiled gently and nodded. When it was their turn, Kyle took a deep breath and stood. He began, When I met Vexa, I didn't know what to expect. She was quiet and shy, and I was just a technician doing my job. But I learned that sometimes even the smallest words can mean the most. Vexa's eyes met his, shining softly. Kyle continued, I said something to her that day. A simple word. You're so sweet. I didn't realize how important that word was to her. It made her silent, and for a time I thought I had upset her. He smiled. But then she showed me that understanding doesn't need many words. It grows with patience, respect, and kindness. The crowd listened, quiet and attentive. Now it was Vexa's turn. She stepped forward and took the microphone. The room held its breath. Vexa looked at Kyle and then out at the crowd. Her voice was soft, but clear. The first time Kyle called me sweet, I could not speak. Not because I was scared, but because I realized something new. She paused and smiled. I realized that I wanted to belong, not just to a place, but to someone's heart. A gentle murmur ran through the crowd. She looked at Kyle again. His kindness helped me understand my own feelings. He showed me that friendship and trust can cross the biggest distances. Kyle felt his cheeks warm as the room applauded. After the speeches, many crew members came forward to congratulate them. Some who had once doubted now smiled with respect. Kyle and Vexa stood together, feeling stronger than ever. As the celebration continued, Kyle took Vexa's hand gently. She squeezed it back. Neither spoke, but their eyes said everything. They had crossed the gap between their worlds. They had built a bond from one honest word and many small acts of kindness. That night in the quiet of the cargo bay where it all began, Kyle and Vexa sat side by side. Kyle pulled out the candy bar he had saved from the first day. I thought, "You might want this," he said softly. Vexa took it and laughed lightly. "Thank you, Kyle. For everything." Kyle smiled. "You're welcome, Vexa. I think you're pretty sweet yourself." Vexa looked at him, eyes full of warmth. "And this time," she spoke without hesitation. "Thank you for letting me find my voice." The Unity sailed on through the endless stars, carrying with it a story of a human and an alien, who showed that no matter how different two beings are, kindness and patience can build a bridge stronger than any language. And sometimes, all it takes is one simple word to change a life forever.